A lot has happened since my last mock draft. That was only 13 days ago. Such as pretty much the Bears' number one pick being Caleb Williams is solidified because they traded Justin Fields to the Steelers. Speaking of the Steelers also signed Russell Wilson. Um, Derrick Henry is a Raven now. Saquon is an Eagle. Just a lot has happened for pretty much every team except the Patriots, sadly, because they haven't really signed anyone. But they have KJ Osborne now, so let's go. But a lot has happened. The Chargers have cut Mike Williams, who's now a Jet, so Aaron Rodgers getting another weapon, and then Keenan Allen trade to the Bears. So the Bears are really set up for the future. If Matt Eberflus can be a good head coach and Caleb Williams can be just better than Justin Fields, not that Justin Fields was bad, but if he can be better than Justin Fields, then it'll be a really good trade that they traded him, even if they're only getting a 6th-round pick, potentially a 4th. But a lot has happened. There's been lots of speculation about Patriots trading down, about different teams trading down. The Vikings have an extra first-round pick, so that would really help them if they do want to make a move in the draft. But a lot has happened since my last mock draft, and I feel like I should make another one because a lot of the picks I had last time are going to change now because I think last time I had the Saints taking a defensive lineman. I think it was Jared Verse, but I don't remember. Signed Chase Young, so I don't really need one anymore. I feel like if they do want to take one, they should take that next year. But there's still a lot that a lot of teams need, and a lot of new needs for teams because of free agency. Patriots probably need an offensive lineman now, like an offensive tackle. But let me stop yapping and let's start the mock draft. So with the first pick, pretty obvious. I think it's Caleb Williams. I mean, this is definitely not going to definitely be the pick, but I feel like I see the Bears trading down just like one or two spots and just getting someone else, but I highly doubt it. Like, really highly doubt it. I would say 95% chance it's going to be Caleb Williams and 5% chance that they either trade down or get someone else at the number one pick. But they really do need a quarterback uh, because they don't have Justin Fields anymore. And some say Caleb Williams is the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, since Peyton Manning. And I don't know if he's going to be that good, but he's okay. He was good in college. He was really good in college. And I think, I don't think this would be the right pick because I feel like he might be a bust in the NFL, but I think that's going to be the pick that ends up happening. With the second pick, instead of it being Drake May, I actually think it's going to be Jaden Daniels. The Commanders have been showing more interest in Jaden Daniels than they have Drake May, and Jaden Daniels is really good in college, won the Heisman. Drake May, I'm pretty sure he wasn't a candidate. I think it was Bo Nix. I don't actually remember who else it was. I remember Bo Nix, Marvin Harrison, Jaden Daniels. I think Penix was the other one, but I don't remember. But anyways, yeah, they've been expressing more interest in Jaden Daniels. I think really, whether it's Drake May or Jaden Daniels, I think both of them would be a right choice because I also think they could perform at a relatively high level because they have a really young core complemented by Austin Eckler, who is a nice veteran who can catch the ball really well, can run the ball really well, but also a good 1-2 punch in the backfield with Brian Robinson as well as a backup running back. Tight end, I would say, is a need. Their offensive line is not that bad. It's not particularly great, but it's not too bad. And then Terry McLaurin is like a top 20 receiver, top 15 receiver in the league. So I think Jaden Daniels is set up decently well to throw for at least 20 touchdowns this season. But I think whether it's Drake May or Jaden Daniels, they would both be awesome choices because they do need a quarterback, and they probably will take one because they traded Sam Howell to the Seahawks. So yeah, there's a lot that has happened since free agency, but I don't think the position that the uh, Commanders take will be different. I just think the player will, and I think they'll take Jaden Daniels instead of Drake May. That was the third pick. I'm a Patriots fan. there's been lots of speculation that they trade this pick down, and I do think that's going to be what happens. I think they're going to trade down with Minnesota. I think they're going to trade 3 for 11, 23, and oh, I thought they had a four. I thought they had a third round pick. Okay, and sure, we'll do a fourth round pick just so it gets accepted in this thing. But I think it'll probably be a lot of people have been speculating that it's going to be Justin Jefferson 11 and 23. That would be an absolute haul for the Patriots. I would be very happy about that. But it's probably not going to happen. Justin Jefferson's like top 3 in the league. Dare I say the best receiver in the league. But yeah, I think Vikings are going to try to trade up. They've already been talking to the Patriots about potentially moving up to 3, and I think the Patriots would be dumb not to do this trade, just trade down, whether it's just 11 and 23 or they're getting an extra second next year or like a fourth this year or a third even next year, maybe even a first next year, or even if it's Justin Jefferson. But I think Minnesota definitely trades up for Drake May. They weren't able to retain um, uh, Kirk Cousins. He's a Falcon now. But I think they trade up, got 23. Either if they don't trade up, I think 23 they might take Michael Penix or Bo Nix, or they trade up and get Drake May or Jane Daniels or whoever is on the board at 3 from the top 3 quarterbacks. But yeah, there's a lot of good quarterback talent on the top of the board, and by a lot I mean 3, and by on the top of the board I mean the top 3. But I think that the Vikings, this could really help them. I feel like they have a really good offensive line. They have a good receiving core. If they don't trade Justin Jefferson, have a good young receiver 2. Receiver 3, they don't have KJ Osborne anymore, but that's fine. They have a really good tight end, probably like top 5 in the league. Running back, they have Aaron Jones. He's pretty good. And even CJ Ham at fullback, he's probably top 5 fullback in the league. But yeah, a really good offense, and their defense is in the rebuilding stage. Their defense is definitely not great, but it's not particularly bad. But there's definitely a lot of things that they can improve on. But I think Drake May would be in the right situation to dominate early on in his career, or at least play at a high level early on in his career. Now, with the fourth pick, I think Marvin Harrison will be the selection. Arizona really needs a receiver now. Their best receiver, I think, is Greg Dortch or Zach Pascal because traded. Oh, yeah, they traded for Desmond Ritter, a backup quarterback. Traded Rondale Moore, their starting receiver actually, because they also did not re-sign um, Marquise Brown. So they lost Marquise Brown, lost Rondale Moore in a trade, and now their best receiver is Greg Dortch and Zach Pascal. And they really need a receiver, and Marvin Harrison makes a really bad receiving core a lot better. Or not even a lot better, just makes them better. But I don't think Greg Dortch is a good wide receiver too necessarily. He's okay, he's good, he's a decent player. He's doing better than he was expected to, but he's been okay, I guess. But I would say they definitely need Marvin Harrison because their receivers are pretty awful. So I think that would be a nice choice. With the fifth pick, I think we go back-to-back receivers. Gonna go Malik Neighbors out of LSU. The reason that I think this is going to be the choice is because then they only have Josh Palmer, who has shown some flashes, has been actually a decent player for them, and then Quentin Johnston, who had a very disappointing rookie year, but that's probably because he was a third receiver for most of the year because of Michael Williams getting hurt, so definitely disappointing that he wasn't able to play as good as he was supposed to, but they definitely do need a receiver because they don't have Keenan Allen anymore. Mike Williams as a Jet. Josh Palmer's been good. He's okay. And Quentin Johnson has just been pretty lackluster for being like a top 25 pick. But I think Malik Neighbors, taking him at 5 would be very helpful. I see this being Brock Bowers or like Malik Neighbors, but I think they definitely have to take someone to help their receiving core because they really need a lot on offense other than quarterback and offensive line. The running backs, they've lost Austin Eckler, so Joshua Kelly might start. Tight end, they don't have Gerald Everett. So Donald Parham might start. He's not that terrible. He's pretty underrated, honestly, in my opinion. And then receiver, they don't have Josh. They have only have Joshua Palmer and Quentin Johnston. So they definitely use any receiving players, whether it's tight end or a receiver. And also they could use a running back, but I don't. There's not really any running backs on the top of the board. Brock Bowers. I think either here at the fifth pick, it's either gonna be Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, or Brock Bowers. But I think it'll be Malik Neighbors because they really need receiver after losing Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. With the sixth pick, I think the Giants are gonna go with another receiver. So first 3 quarterbacks, then 3 receivers. Giants don't have really any good receivers. Darius Slayton has been okay. Wandale Robinson has been okay. Isaiah Hodgins hasn't really lived up to the hype his after the previous season before the season that just happened. And then also Paris Campbell, who hasn't really been playing too much, even being on a team or like a receiving core that's not particularly great at all. And then Jalen Hyatt, who's a young player, but he's probably not going to get too much playing time. I think they definitely could use a receiver because Rome Odunze would either be immediately the number one receiver or would fight for the number one receiver spot against Darius Slayton. But they definitely could use a receiver. With the seventh pick, I think that the Titans will take Joe Alt here. They don't really need corner and they don't need QB because, well, they definitely could use a quarterback, but I don't think they'll take one because Will Levis, they might stick it out with him. He was great in his debut against the Falcons, but ever since then he was kind of okay. Did what he had to do to be decent, and I think he'll probably start this year because Ryan Tannehill was a free agent and Malik Willis isn't that great. But yeah, they could definitely use offensive linemen to protect Will Levis, and I think Joe Alt is really good at doing that and would help their offensive line a lot. With the eighth pick, the Falcons just signed uh, Kirk Cousins. They signed also Darnell Mooney and traded for Rondell Moore, so they're really building their offense. So I think the first defensive player of the draft finally goes off the board in Dallas Turner. They could use edge. Grady Jarrett's getting older. Calais Campbell's almost in his 40s, I think. I think he's like 39, 38, maybe 36. I don't really remember, but he's pretty old. And Dallas Turner, even their outside linebackers actually are not that great. They have Arnold Ebiketie, and then I think the other one's Lorenzo Carter, but he's been okay. And then it's either him or Caden Ellis. I don't really remember, but they could definitely use edge if they're putting Dallas Turner on the defensive line because Grady Jarrett's old. David Onyemata is old, but he's a defensive tackle, so I don't think Dallas Turner will go there. But yeah, they could definitely use an edge. I would say the defensive ends for Atlanta have been playing pretty well, and Dallas Turner could be the next one that plays pretty well on the Falcons because they could definitely use edge, like an edge rusher, like an extra edge rusher as well. With the ninth pick, Caleb Williams is a Bear. Not really much that the Bears could use here, but I think they go with the second defensive player off the board, and they take Jared Verse. They could definitely use defensive linemen. Could really definitely use anyone on the front seven. I think they have Yannick Ngakoue and Montez Sweat, who's pretty good. But Yannick Ngakoue, I think I would rather have Jared Verse, who's young and talented, and Yannick Ngakoue, who's just pretty mediocre and already in his late 20s. But yeah, I think Jared Verse, he would be a really good pickup. He's pretty young and he can develop next to Montez Sweat and on that young defense with even some pretty star players on that defense. The Bears have made a lot of notable signings. They got DeAndre Swift on the offense and then also traded for Keenan Allen. And then defensively, they got Kevin Byard. But they've been having, honestly, very underrated free agency, probably top 5 in the league. And I think Jared Verse would really, really help their defense because they've been bolstering their offense throughout this whole free agency and also in a draft most likely Caleb Williams, who's another offensive player, at number one. And then I think it'll be a defensive focused draft other than the number one pick for the Bears because they've really been bolstering their offense this free agency. And Jared Verse is a pretty good defensive player to add to that offense or to that defensive line. Last pick of the top 10, Brock Bowers gonna go and play with Aaron Rodgers. I think that would really help his development. Aaron Rodgers, a really old QB who's also still plays at a decently high level. And tight end for the Jets, Tyler Conklin has been okay, but I see him as just a backup tight end. I mean, he was honestly a really good backup tight end for the Vikings behind TJ Hawkinson last year. Or no, Irv Smith. He didn't start, but he was actually pretty decent, and I think he might have backed up TJ Hawkinson at one point, but he was also good playing there. But when he was on the Vikings, he did good, but he was never the starting tight end. But now that he's been starting for the Jets, he's just been pretty mid, and he's been performing kind of at the same level, maybe even a little bit worse. But uh, I think I just see him as a backup tight end, and Brock Bowers I see as a really versatile player that could um, help them out a lot. With the 11th pick, my Patriots, although it's very lame and it's a really sad pick, and I wouldn't like to see this happen in real life, even though it probably will happen. That's the only reason I'm locking that to happen. Is them getting Oli Fashanu, a really good young offensive lineman who, at the start of the year, was projected to be like a top 5 player in the draft and didn't really fall off too much. I think fell maybe top 15, which is still really, really, really good. I remember Gregory Rousseau was supposed to be the best player in his draft class and then fell all the way to the second round, or like second round protection. And then I think he went either late first round or early second, or maybe even mid second, maybe even the third round. I don't really remember, but he was supposed to be the best player in his class and he wasn't. Didn't even go like top 5, top 10. But Olu Fashanu hasn't really fell off that much from the start of the year. Is still a really good offensive lineman. The Patriots just lost Trent Brown to the uh, to the Bengals because they could definitely use a replacement for him because he was a really good offensive tackle for them. And Olu Fashanu was another pretty good offensive tackle who is a rookie who's pretty sure he's 22 or 23, but still very young. And I think it would really help out their young offensive line that they are developing. And I think David Andrews could be a nice mentor for him, or even Mike Onwenu. Now with the 12th pick, Russell Wilson is not a Bronco anymore, but J.J. McCarthy is. I think he's going to go number 12. Definitely could use a quarterback. I don't think Jarrett Stidham is the guy. And J.J. McCarthy, pretty good quarterback, was on the national championship team. That doesn't really mean anything because Mac Jones was on the national championship team, but he sucks. But yeah, I think they definitely take J.J. McCarthy here if they have the opportunity to, because they need quarterback and their offense is decent. I think J.J. McCarthy could throw for at least 20 touchdowns on this offense with Cortland Sutton. Marvin Mims, who's been pretty good, and he's also young, 23, I think. And then Greg Dulcich, a very underrated tight end, in my opinion. I think he's awesome. And then some nice running backs. I don't think Samaje Perine is there anymore, but Javonte Williams is there. Jaleel McLaughlin was showing a bunch of flashes this season, went off, honestly. Or not went off, but he was pretty good. But very young offense, and even the old players are playing pretty well. And I think J.J. McCarthy would fit right in and be a pretty good quarterback for them for the next few years, maybe even for the next 10 years or 15 years if he can be that good. Maybe he's the next great Michigan quarterback like Tom Brady was. I doubt it. Like, I highly doubt it, but I think he'll be I think he'll be a decent pickup for the Broncos. With the 13th pick, I think the Raiders get some help on their offensive line, get the bulldozer Taluis Fuega. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm probably butchering it. So I'm just going to call him Fuega. But he's a really good offensive tackle. I watched like a video on him, and he can pancake really well. I think they could definitely use someone like him on the offensive line. Colton Miller on the other side of him. I think they lost Jermaine Illuminor, so they could definitely use another offensive lineman or offensive tackle, or yeah, offensive lineman, and I think Talvez Fuega would be a good one for them. With the 14th pick, I don't think they take an edge anymore because they don't necessarily need one, but I think they're going to take another offensive lineman and take J.C. Latham. Ryan Ramczyk has been good, but he's just kind of been the same player the last 5 years. Not really getting better, not really getting worse. But I think they could use another offensive lineman. He's getting old. I think he's in his 30s now. And then I don't know. Trevor Penning has been very disappointing. And then also James Hurst, he's 30. But J.C. Latham is a really good offensive tackle, and he would probably start immediately, honestly, on that team. So I think that would be a good pick for the Saints. With the 15th pick, I think the Indianapolis Colts will select Terrion Arnold. They could use another corner. Kenny Moore is getting old, and then they lost. No, they never mind. Okay. I was gonna say they lost Stephon Gilmore, but he wasn't even on their team last year. But yeah, they could definitely use a corner. Terrion Arnold's really young, and he's really good too. So I think that would help them out a lot. With the 16th pick, I think Byron Murphy is going to be a Seattle Seahawk. They could use a defensive lineman. Their defensive line is kind of mid. I think Quentin Jefferson is their defensive tackle, and then defensive ends, I don't even know who they are. They're probably forgetting someone because I'm drawing a blank right now. But still, they could definitely use some defensive line help, and Byron Murphy is a really good, or is a good defensive line, and he can help them out pretty much immediately. With the 17th pick, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's between Brian Thomas and Quinion Mitchell. But I think they take Quinion Mitchell. They lost Darius Williams, and Tyson Campbell is pretty much their only good cornerback on the roster. And he could definitely help their cornerback core out. And he would be a pretty good number 2 corner for the Jaguars. With the 18th pick, I think that they're going to take another LSU receiver. Maybe he's the next Jamar Chase, but I think they're going to take Brian Thomas. T. Higgins requested a trade, so he'll probably be, by the time the real draft comes around, the real NFL draft comes around, I'm expecting T. Higgins to be on a different team, hopefully the Patriots, not going to lie. But there's definitely, I think they probably will end up trading T. Higgins by the time that the real draft comes around, and that'll leave them in need for a second receiver. And I think Brian Thomas would be a pretty good one. He was really good for LSU, and I think that would help their receiving core. 2 LSU receivers with an LSU quarterback. A lot of LSU players, just like the Eagles like a lot of Georgia players. Cincinnati, the Bengals, they like a lot of LSU players. But maybe that's how it is. I don't know. But that'll probably be the new script if they do get Brian Thomas. But I think that if he's available, or really if Adonai Mitchell is the best receiver on the board, they might take him because they could definitely use a receiver. Because I think they're probably going to trade T. Higgins by the time that the real draft comes around. With the 19th pick, I think the Rams gonna bolster or not really bolster. I think they're gonna replace Aaron Donald. Unfortunately for them, he retired. Great career. He's definitely gonna be a Hall of Famer. Went off for the Rams. He's really good, and really unfortunate that the Rams had to lose such a great player like that. He was top 5 defensive player in the league, maybe even the best edge rusher in the league at like last year. Or not last year, but talent wise, kind of. Not talent wise, but Aaron Donald, really good defensive end, and it's gonna be very, very tough for them to replace someone like him. But I think they will attempt to get their next Aaron Donald and get Laiatu Latu to replace him potentially. Even though I think a player of his caliber is irreplaceable for at least 5 years or maybe even 3 years, unless they find a hidden gem or just draft a really good player in the first round. But I think they'll get one step closer to replacing Aaron Donald, and they get Laiatu Latu to hopefully establish that. Last pick of the top 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the board, and I think they're going to take Troy Fatanu. They lost Chuma Okorafor to my Patriots. That's a W. And then don't remember who their other offensive tackles are, so let's just Google this. Another offensive coordinator is Arthur Smith. Okay, let's just do Steelers depth chart, bro. But yeah, they did lose Chuma Okorafor, so they could use another offensive tackle. Yeah, Broderick Jones, he's been okay, and then Dan Moore Jr. He's not that great. Broderick Jones has kind of been the same player he was in college, but maybe just translating that to the NFL how you would expect him to. But I think that taking an offensive tackle would be very impactful for the Steelers because Dan Moore Jr. isn't too great, and I think Troy Fautanu would start over him if he were to get drafted at the 20th pick. Okay, 21st pick, Miami. I think they're going to take Jackson Powers Johnson. They lost Robert Hunt to the Panthers, so I think they will take one step closer to replacing him and get the guard or the inside offensive lineman out of Oregon. Why did I say Oregon? Oregon, because they could definitely use an inside offensive lineman after Robert Hunt left, and I think Jacqueline Powers Johnson is a pretty good one and would help them out if he were to go there. With the 22nd pick, I think the Philadelphia Eagles will select the speedster out of Clemson, Nate Wiggins, because they could use corner. Darius Slay is getting on the older side, and then who was their other corner? Why am I blanking, dude? That's actually obvious. I feel like I think that's Avonte Maddox, who's the second corner, but I feel like they had someone that was also like really good. So it's Darius Slay, and then it's James Bradbury. But after that, there isn't anyone. There's Isaiah Rodgers, but is Avonte Maddox there? Oh no, he's a free agent. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, but they could definitely use corner. They don't have Avonte Maddox anymore apparently, and Isaiah Rodgers is fast. That's all I can really say about him. He's a decent corner, but he's also really fast. But I think Nate Wiggins is also really fast, and he's also a decent corner, and he's also younger than Isaiah Rodgers by a lot. So I think that would be a good pick for the Eagles. Now, this might be a little too early, but the Patriots, Bo Nix will probably be available at the second pick in the or in the second pick in the second round. So, but I think that Bo Nix will be taken here at 31 because the Patriots don't have a quarterback. I feel like maybe Bo Nix can sit under Jacoby Brissett for a year, and Jacoby Brissett can teach him the ropes, show him how to be a successful NFL quarterback. Because Jacoby Brissett, when playing for the Patriots, was honestly not too terrible, and I think he would definitely impact Bo Nix's impression of football and could help him out a lot in his future. With the 24th pick, I think Dallas will try to replace Tyron Smith and get Amarius Mims. And that's pretty much the only reason I think they would take him, because Tyron Smith is top 3 offensive tackle in the league, maybe even top 2, maybe top 5. I don't know if I'm forgetting someone, but he's a really good offensive tackle nonetheless, and they could definitely try to replace him with Amarius Mims, who's a pretty good offensive tackle out of college, and hopefully that translates to the NFL, because they could definitely use a replacement like him, because a replacement for someone like Tyron Smith, because he was such an awesome offensive tackle for them. With the 25th pick, a lot of Packers fans said they wanted Cooper Jean, and I also think that's going to be what they do. Jair Alexander, pretty good number 1 corner. Eric Stokes has been pretty decent, but that third corner or even that second corner spot, if they think Cooper Jean can start over Eric Stokes, I think he would be a really good pick, because they could definitely use a corner, because they have Jair Alexander and then pretty much no one else. You can say that Eric Stokes is pretty good. I think he's pretty decent. But yeah, I think they could definitely use a player like Cooper DeJean on that cornerback core. With the 26th pick, Chop Robinson, apparently his name is Demiun. Demu? Yes. But I think they're going to take Adonai Mitchell. They needed receiver, I would say. Um, they lost. I think they lost. I think they cut Russell Gage, and then also Chris Godwin has just kind of been mid these last 2 years. Mike Evans signed a contract extension though, but I think they could definitely use a wide receiver 3, and Adonai Mitchell can be a good receiver, and they can even develop him into being a receiver 2 after Chris Godwin leaves, because I think his contract might be expiring soon, but I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, Adonai Mitchell would be a good receiver 2 after Chris Godwin leaves, and a good receiver 3 for when Chris Godwin is still there. Now, with this pick, I think Jerzon Newton will be a Cardinal. They could really use defensive tackle and honestly just defensive lineman in general, because their best defensive tackle is Lee Kaifotu, and he's not that great. He's not particularly great, and Jerzon Newton really good for Illinois, and he would pretty much start immediately if he were to get drafted here by the Cardinals. With the 28th pick, the Buffalo Bills, a lot has happened. They've cut so many people, and they need a lot of new people. They could definitely use corner, and I think that's what they're going to do, replace Tre'Davious White with Kool-Aid McKinstry, who was really good, was projected as one of the top 10 player or top 8 players in the draft class a while ago, but after the combine he dropped, and even a little bit before the combine he dropped. But he's a really good corner, and they definitely could use someone like him because they need corner because they lost Tre'Davious White, and then also the rest of their secondary they cut, or they're not re-signing Micah Hyde, and then Jordan Poyer cut because he was too expensive. He's also a Dolphin now. So yeah, Bills fans, their salary cap is going to be really bad for a long time because they cut all those really good players and we're still over the cap. And they're also signing people and extending people, so they're still going to have to cut a few more people. With the 29th pick, the Detroit Lions, they could do a lot here, but I think that what they're going to do is take Chop Robinson. They could use another edge alongside Aiden Hutchinson after Romeo Okwara retired, but not because of that, because they can use another defensive end. And Chop Robinson went off at the combine, was really good at the combine, and I think that would help them a lot. I think with the 29th or with the 30th pick, the Ravens select Xavier Worthy because he's a really fast receiver. He would be It's honestly kind of scary on an offense like that with a really fast quarterback, really good running back with Derrick Henry, and another maybe probably second receiver in Xavier Worthy, who holds the 40-yard dash record. But yeah, I think they definitely need a receiver. Odell Beckham Jr. is a free agent, and the receiver is a pretty big need, I would say, for the Ravens, and Xavier Worthy would help them out quite a bit with his 99 speed probably, and uh, just in general in the NFL, not just Madden. That would be a scary team to do in Madden. A really fast quarterback, really good running back, and pretty fast receivers, really good tight end, top 3 tight end probably in Madden, and a defense that's also really good. So that's a pretty scary team to go against in Madden. Super Bowl, say you're like the Panthers and you somehow made it there, you're screwed. There's no way you're winning unless you put it on rookie or pro or all pro arcade, or really just if you put it on arcade, you're probably gonna win. But if it's not on arcade, it's GG's. Pretty much. Okay, and with the 31st pick, I think that the 49ers will get another inside offensive lineman. They don't really have that many great ones, and I think Graham Barton would start over Aaron Banks, I think is who it was. Let me check. I think it's Aaron Banks and also someone else because they have 2 guards. It's John Feliciano and Aaron Banks. So yeah, Graham Barton, they definitely could use him. He would probably start over whether it's John Feliciano or Aaron Banks, but they could definitely use a good inside offensive lineman, and Graham Barton is just that. And last pick of the first round, I think Lad McConkey just barely sneaks into the first round, goes to the Chiefs. They can definitely use a receiver. Their receiving course sucked last year, and I think they could really use another good receiver, or at least another decent receiver, to start because they definitely could use a receiver. They signed Hollywood Brown, and they also have Rasheed Rice, but I would think they could definitely use another receiver in case Marquise Brown doesn't work out and he doesn't become the next Tyreek Hill. But that is going to be the mock draft. Vikings trade up to 3 to take a quarterback, and uh, the first defensive player off the board went off the board at 8, which is kind of depressing. Yeah, just a really offensively overpowered class. Only let's count how many defense players there were. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 defensive players and 21 offensive players. So yeah, just an offensively overpowered uh, draft or first round. And even later on the board, there's a lot of great talent still on the offensive side. Some great talent also on the defensive side, but I think honestly there might be more on the offensive side. But there's probably just more depth at defense. There's a lot of players at defense that are still available. But yeah, that is going to be the mock draft. The main things of this: Caleb Williams goes 1, Jane Daniels goes 2. Vikings trade up for Drake May. Marvin Harrison is going to be a Cardinal. Malik Neighbors is a Charger. Rome Dunzi is a Giant. Joe Alt goes to the Titans. Dallas Turner and Jared Verse go back to the Falcons and Bears. Patriots get Olu Fashanu and Bo Nix. Olu at 11, Bo Nix at 23. Brock Bowers goes to New York. JJ McCarthy's a Texan or Texan? Okay, a Bronco. And Brian Thomas goes to the Bengals. The Ravens add another scary. Their offense gets even more scary with a really really fast receiver in Xavier Worthy. And that is pretty much it. I guess you can say the Lions got Chop Robinson and Chiefs got another receiver. But that is pretty much what the draft was. So a lot of things changed since my last mock draft because of all the signings. And I think that this is relatively realistic, and I think it would be a nice. I think every team would be making a decent choice at least if they did what I said, what I told them to do. But yeah, that's gonna be the mock draft. I hope you guys enjoyed. There's definitely some picks that you guys probably disagree with me on, but if you think that I did something wrong, or if you think a certain team will take a different player, comment below. I like reading the comments because it makes me happy to read the comments because that like I can. It's just fun to read comments because I can reply to them, and I like hearing your guys' opinions and about different things and certain things on the NFL, which is mainly why I make YouTube Shorts because like a lot of them can at least get 500 views and get some pretty like a decent amount of comments, and I like to read the comments, and if you do comment, literally 100% chance that I at least read it. I might not heart it, I might not like it, but I'll definitely read it and maybe even respond to it. But yeah, that's going to be a mock draft. There will at least be one more mock draft. I think it'll be after the full free agency is done, like maybe a few days before the draft, because that'll be when Stephon Gilmore is on the team, when maybe even T. Higgins gets traded, when Brandon Ayuk potentially gets traded, uh, when Dave Bakhtiari signs, when Justin Simmons signs, when Isaiah Simmons signs, if anyone cares about that. there are a lot of still big name people still available, like Xavier Howard, of course Justin Simmons and Dave Bakhtiari. There's a lot of people that are still available in this free agency that can go to some big name teams and big name players going to small teams. But I probably have one more mock draft before the real draft. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoy my edits. Maybe I might even make another video. Maybe not a mock draft, but just like another video before my next mock draft. Probably not, but we'll see. We'll see how I feel about making another video. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.